August in Los Angeles is nothing short of a relentless form of torture. The asphalt warps under the 101-degree heat, and the air is thick with a restless, parched scent of dust. My name is Caleb, and I live on the third floor of a somewhat weathered apartment complex in West Hollywood. My window looks directly across the courtyard to the balcony of my neighbor, Mrs. Robinson. Mrs. Robinson is a riddle. She's 48, living alone since her husband passed away. In this neighborhood full of restless souls, she stands out like a black cherry ripened in the high noon sun, full, deep, and possessing a dangerous sense that she might burst with honey at any second. The way her hips sway when she walks, even when encased in the stiffest, most conservative professional suit, feels like a silent provocation to every ounce of testosterone on the street. I admit it, I'm a hopeless voyeur. On those sweltering afternoons when it's too hot to even think about sleeping, I'm obsessed with every moment she spends on that balcony. That day, she had changed into a white silk slip dress, a fabric so thin it was practically a suggestion. In the harsh California sunlight, that dress became a translucent wing. Hiding in my darkened room, peering through the slats of my blinds, I could see the elegant lines of her back. I could practically count the vertebrae of her spine as they pressed against that paper-thin silk. She leaned over slightly to prune a dying hydrangea. The movement caused the hem of her dress to ride up, revealing a long stretch of firm, porcelain thigh that looked almost sacred in the light. I sat in my creaky old armchair, gripping a cold can of Budweiser, my fingertips trembling from the sheer tension. The distance was driving me crazy. That sense of look but don't touch was more suffocating than the heat wave outside. Then it happened. A patch of water from the watering can had slicked the tiles. Mrs. Robinson's heel slipped. Oh, damn it! A short, sharp cry. She hit the floor hard, her right hand reaching out to brace herself. I heard a dull, sickening thud. I dropped my beer. My brain didn't even process the logic. My body just bolted out the door, sprinting through the hallway that smelled like cheap air freshener. When I pushed through her half-ajar door, the room hit me with her signature sandalwood perfume mixed with that faint, uniquely feminine warmth. Mrs. Robinson, are you okay? I panted, kneeling beside her. She was sprawled there, her hair messy against her cheeks, a fine layer of sweat beading on her forehead. Her right hand was braced against the floor at an awkward angle. Her usually poised, pale face was flushed with a strange, dark hue from the intense pain, and her breathing had fallen into a broken rhythm. Caleb, I think I broke my wrist, she whispered, biting her lip. There was a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes, but more than that, a sense of raw, unpolished awkwardness at being exposed in front of a younger man. As I helped her up, my palm inevitably pressed against the velvet warmth of her bare shoulder. It was a texture softer and slicker than anything I had ever hallucinated. In that moment, the screeching LA cicadas seemed to go silent. All I could hear was the intertwining sound of our heavy, jagged breathing. The doc's verdict was a severe ligament tear and a hairline fracture. Her right hand was wrapped into a thick, clumsy loaf of bread cast. This meant for the next 2 weeks, this woman, usually so proud, so self-contained, always looking down on me with a matriarchal poise, couldn't even twist the cap off a soda, let alone reach the zipper on the back of her own dress. Caleb, I feel like a total klutz, she sighed, sitting on her sofa and looking at her swollen hand with a self-deprecating smile. Don't sweat it, Mrs. Robinson. I told you I got you, I said, standing before her, looking down at her from a position of newfound necessity. The shift in power was intoxicating. I was no longer the lowly voyeur lurking behind a curtain. I held the golden ticket into her private life. I started handling the mundane chores. I trimmed her nails. I folded her intimate wear, those lace-edged pieces that still carried the lingering heat of her body. As the days crawled by, the vibe in the apartment turned into something heavy. It was what people call thick enough to cut with a knife. That evening, a rare LA thunderstorm rolled in, but the heat just got trapped inside, turning the air humid and electric. Mrs. Robinson came out of the bathroom after washing her face, her damp hair clinging to the nape of her neck, a few stray locks sliding down her collarbone into the loose neck of her t-shirt. Caleb, look, this is super awkward, she whispered, biting her lip, her eyes wandering, unable to meet mine. I haven't had a real shower in 2 days. This hand, I just can't manage it. Can you help me out?" My heart skipped a beat. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the hunger mixed with intense shame in her eyes. I knew that once I stepped into that bathroom, every pretense we had would drop to the floor like that silk dress. "Of course, Mrs. Robinson. That's what I'm here for," I said softly, my voice so steady it actually scared me. The steam in the bathroom rose quickly, turning the small space into a humid sanctuary. It was a different kind of tension now, one that made the very air feel heavy, almost electric. I adjusted the water temperature, my back to her. I could hear the rustle of fabric behind me, the sound of her struggling with the stubborn zipper of her dress, using only one hand. It was a clumsy, frustrated sound that broke the silence. "Need some help, Mrs. Robinson?" I asked. My voice was low, steady, but my heart was doing a frantic rhythm against my ribs. She didn't answer with words. She simply stepped closer, her shadow falling over mine against the frosted glass. I turned and found her standing there, the elegance of her silhouette blurred by the mist. She looked at me, really looked at me, with a gaze that was stripped of all its usual neighborly armor. "Please," she whispered. It was a plea for help, but it felt like a surrender. As my fingers reached for the zipper, I felt the radiating heat of her skin. I didn't need to touch her to feel the tremor running through her body. I pulled the zipper down slowly, the sound echoing like a secret being told. The fabric gave way, sliding down with a soft shush onto the tile floor. I stepped back, giving her space, but the atmosphere remained thick enough to cut with a knife. "Start with the back," she said, turning away from me. Her voice carried a faint vibration, a mix of the cold water she feared and the heat of the moment she couldn't escape. I picked up the loofah, lathered it into a rich, sandalwood-scented foam. My hand moved with a deliberate, agonizing slowness. I followed the curve of her spine, the foam tracing the lines I had only ever seen from across the courtyard. Every time my hand moved, her breath hitched, a sharp, staccato sound that filled the small room. It wasn't just about the water or the soap anymore. It was about the unspoken acknowledgement between us. We were two people who had spent months pretending the air between our balconies didn't crackle with static, and now, that static was a lightning storm. Suddenly, a heavy thud came from the hallway outside, a neighbor's door slamming shut. Bang! The sound was like a gunshot. Mrs. Robinson froze, her shoulders tensing, her knuckles turning white as she gripped the edge of the sink. We both held our breath, the only sound left being the steady hiss of the shower. In that moment, the fear of being discovered wasn't a deterrent, it was a catalyst. It made the privacy of this room feel like a fortress we had to protect at all costs. She looked at me through the mirror, her eyes dark and wide. She pointed a trembling finger toward the door. I understood. I walked over, my footsteps silent on the wet floor, and turned the lock. Click. That tiny sound was the final seal on our contract. The world outside, the judgmental neighbors, the scorching LA sun, the rules we were supposed to follow, it all vanished. There was only the steam, the scent of sandalwood, and the heavy weight of a secret that was no longer a secret. The rest of the hour passed in a blur of mist and muffled sounds. No words were needed. Every movement was a language of its own, a careful navigation of boundaries that were melting away like the soap suds under the warm spray. I helped her dry off, the towel acting as a thin veil between us. The way she leaned into my touch, the way her breathing finally slowed into a deep, resonant rhythm. It was the most honest we had ever been with each other. We had stripped away the neighbor and the handyman, leaving only the raw, electric truth of two lonely people finding a spark in the dark. The next morning, the LA sun was just as vicious as ever, pouring into the tidy living room. Mrs. Robinson sat at the table, sipping black coffee. She wore a high-collared housecoat. She was the poised, quiet woman once again. It was as if that woman in the bathroom, the one who was wild, lost, and crying out while biting her lip, was just a figment of my imagination. But I knew better. I walked over and poured her a glass of water. As we exchanged the tray, our fingers touched briefly. Neither of us pulled away immediately. We looked at each other. No smiles, no hiding. There was a certain dead quiet look in her eyes, the look of someone who had sunk into the abyss and survived, a shared understanding that needed no words. I knew then that we had crossed the Rubicon. Some doors, once locked, some relationships, once heated to the boiling point, they simply never go back to the way they were.